Our parents split when I was 7 years old, and we started going to my dad's house every other weekend from that time on. And when I was around 13 years old, my brother and I were waiting at the door. My sister had kind of slowed down on going at that time, you know, late teenage years and whatnot, going out with friends, hanging out. And but my brother and I were still going strong because we were a bit younger. Um, and we were waiting. We were waiting to be picked up, and he wasn't there. And so I called his house, and no one answered. And he lived above this bar, and I called the bar to see if he was there, and he was drunk, and he said he wouldn't be able to pick us up this week, and he was sorry about it. And I was like, okay. And so I hung up and went about the next 2 weeks, and then we were kind of same deal. We were standing at the door, and he didn't show up, and I called his house and then subsequently the bar again. And he said, I'm sorry, bud, but I'm not going to be picking you up anymore. He was moving away. And that was pretty much it. That was as brief as it was. Very brief. It was a brief conversation, and it shocked me. It rocked my world. It was the last time that I had heard from my father, and it remained that way for a long time. And I was angry. I was furious that my dad just left, and that was it. And I drank over that for a long time. I was I fantasized about what I would do if I ever found him. I fantasized about going up and punching him in the face. That's how I'd handle it if I ever saw him again. And I just, certain songs would make me very emotional, especially when it came to, when it came to father-son relationships. It affected me hard. It was hard, because my dad was actually a gentle man. He drank a lot and he smoked a lot of cigarettes. And I actually wrote a little story about him once called Superman from Spring Till Fall. And I said that, how could you drink that much alcohol and smoke that many cigarettes and not die and not be Superman? You know what I mean? Like, and but one day in when I was probably about, I don't know. It must have been pretty early in sobriety. I think it was like 3 years. I was tired of carrying around the anger. I was still angry in sobriety, because this was unresolved. This was a fence that needed to be mending, and I wasn't the one who, did it. So, so where's my amends? It's like, but I got tired of carrying around the anger that I had towards my dad. And I went to my sponsor and I said, I don't know what to do with this. And he said, well, why don't you write a letter, but don't send it out. Instead, bring it to me and we'll go over it. And so I did that. I wrote him a letter and I sent it out. And I went over to my sponsor's house, and then we went through it line by line. And he asked me questions, very pointed questions about why I was wording things the way that I was. What does that indicate? Like what's under the hood on why you have to say it this way, and what is it that what's the spirit that you're that you're writing this from? And I got called out into the carpet for a couple of things where I was, kind of like trying to poke him a little. And one of the questions that I remember my sponsor asking me was, you know, you may want to answer the question of like, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your father? And that turned out to be a very important question to answer. And I sat down with it for a while afterwards. And I realized I just wanted to have one. I didn't really care how it came up, and like what it was supposed to be or anything along those lines. I just wanted to have a relationship with my dad. And so we continued working on the letter, and I rewrote it a number of times in a 6-month period, and each time with guidance from my sponsor. And at the end of that 6 months, I sat with the perfect letter. I was very happy with it. I wasn't trying to, harm him in any way. I was opening myself up to the relationship. That's what was happening, is that I was just opening myself back up again. I was getting rid of all of these barricades and barriers to having a relationship with my father. And as a result of going through this line by line and rewriting it, it's almost like rewiring the brain, right? Like I'm taking all of these resentments and I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at them squarely, and I'm sharing them with another person openly, and I'm reevaluating, what kind of spirit or attitude I want to carry in this life. And at the end, I realized, like, I sat there with this letter, and I also sat there with a different attitude towards my dad. I mean, I no longer had any anger towards him. I just was open to the idea that if he'd like to have a relationship with me, that's cool. And if he doesn't, that's cool too, because I've been okay this whole time. You know what I mean? Like it's all right. No matter what, it's all right. And so I found his address and I sent it out, and it came back, return to sender. And I was, I won't say that I wasn't a little disappointed. It was a little disappointed that I didn't get a chance, but it was okay. And that's perfectly fine. And I went about my life, Now, I kept the letter and I revisited it from time to time. And when I was living in Germany, I ended up with a little help from my ex. And she was like, "Here, I found his address. Do you think you want to send out the letter?" And I kind of revised it a little, and I looked at it, and I had it checked by somebody that I trusted, and she was like, "Jesus, that's the perfect letter." I was like, "No." And I sent it out, and damn it, if I didn't hear back from the man after 25 years of not hearing from my father, I heard back from him. He said he was doing well. He was really glad to hear from me. He wanted to know how my sister Heather was doing. He wanted to know how my brother Tyler was doing, which was sticky because Tyler had died and he didn't know that. And I didn't want to say that in a letter. But he wanted to keep in contact. It was great. So I sent him another letter back, sent him pictures of my kids, and like, poof, never heard back from him again. Like, okay, that's fine. That's okay. And, but I just wanted to share this because it's, this is it boggled my mind, and it still does to some degree or another. We have the amends process in order to open ourselves up to the relationships that have gone awry in our pasts. And this isn't your classical amends where I've harmed someone and they should, I need to approach them in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, theoretically, the harm was done by my father, so it would be very easy for me to just sit back and be like, yeah, I'm not the one, right? I don't have responsibility, but I have responsibility over my own feelings, right? How I feel about the world, how I feel about everything, how I see the people in my life. I have a responsibility over my side of every relationship in my life. and and that can be resolved. And that was the amazing thing to me. It's like I was like, with the help of uh of some guidance which I needed, I found it possible to resolve a relationship and become okay with it and change my attitudes towards it without the other person even really being involved, which was a stunning revelation for me. It was like, oh, wow, holy cow, that's true. I'd rather do that with, said person. And I was super happy to hear back from my dad, like that was like really cool. And I'd love to see him at some point. I hope he's doing well. If he's still alive, I have no idea. Maybe I'll send another letter out. I don't know. We'll see. But nonetheless, that's just I just love that. I just loved having my mind and my eye opened up to the fact that it doesn't matter who commits the harms, right? It doesn't matter who commits the harms, and we're all left with the wreckage of relationships, and where we don't, like, um, I don't have to pretend or play like I'm trapped by someone else having done something, right? I can look at it, my side of it, and I can square up to it. And that seems to resolve it. And that's pretty dope. I love it. So